During the peak of Alistair Overeem's career,
The Demolition Man!
he was a brutal monster, destroying legendary MMA fighters and legendary kickboxers. From 2008 to 2011, he was arguably the most feared fighter in both MMA and kickboxing.
Is in the house! The Herculean figure of Alistair Overeem! He really does not need an introduction in the fighting world!
Alistair Overeem's legendary career had nearly 100 fights in total. Simply put, he was a monster who destroyed monsters.
He gets that crazy look in his eyes!
Even if his opponents put their hands up, punches from him still sends them flying into the ground. You see, Overeem looks straight out of a superhero movie. He looked like a super soldier made in a lab that beats up superheroes. From the best of kickboxing to the best of MMA, he's knocked out legends in both sports with creative techniques.
You'd hit his balls so hard that one of them went up into his stomach. For real, or do you think he was just looking for a way out?
You know, those things don't break.
Nicknamed the Demolition Man, he was enhanced with a supplementary diet of horse meat, making him so jacked that from 2008 to 2011, he looked absolutely unbeatable. When Overeem became the Ubereem, he was one of the greatest mythical fighters of all time.
He was so jacked. When he was Ubereem, Jesus fucking Christ.
Goddamn comic book hero.
Yeah.
He's clearly over 9,000.
Hold on to that guy.
Few people know this, but when 5 bouncers at a nightclub tried to attack Overeem, he defeated all of them and sent them to hospital. But he's not just jacked and strong. He also has the highest striking accuracy in the history of mixed martial arts. That is terrifying given how powerful he is, and that's why he's one of the greatest fighters ever. Some even consider him the Mike Tyson of MMA and kickboxing. Most people don't know this, but Overeem was trained by Ramon Dekkers' coach Cor Hemmers, and Dekkers was Mike Tyson's favourite kickboxer. While Overeem's punches did not hit harder than Tyson's punches, his knees were certainly much more devastating. Inside the clinch, he was the best heavyweight in the world. For many, he was immortalised as a champion who dominated both sports. Fight fans, welcome to the top 7 brutal knockouts of the Demolition Man. Alistair Overeem vs Badr 1. The best knockout from Overeem comes from fighting the bad boy of kickboxing. Badr is known for his cocky attitude and willingness to fight anyone at any time. Even in pre-fight conferences, he'll talk shit and then fight them right there.
Drop dead.
Oh!
I just want to hurt the people and I just want to knock my opponents out.
During kickboxing fights, he'll continue punching and kicking them on the ground. But the scariest thing about fighting Badr was that he has the highest knockout ratio in kickboxing history, with nearly 90% with over 100 fights. Coming from an MMA background with over 40 fights in top mixed martial arts organisations, the Reem declared that MMA fighters are better than kickboxers. So Badr called him out. This should have been an easy fight on paper because Overeem only had 4 fights in kickboxing, 2 of them with him getting knocked out. You see, 3 years ago, Overeem fought Globe Feitosa, the heavyweight kickboxer who made the question mark kick famous in kickboxing. He was easily knocked out. But when Overeem met Badr 3 years later, he was not the same man. He became the Ubereem enhanced by horse meat.
I think I've ever had
very
horse
good
meat.
protein.
During the fight, Badr tried to hit Overeem, but it had little to no effect. However, when Overeem hit Badr, it was devastating. Each punch that landed sent the skinnier fighter's head flying. After a very nice shifting uppercut, Overeem landed another beautiful switch knee and attempted a left hook Superman punch. This technique would be very important later. Moments after, they traded right cross into left hook combinations, with Overeem getting the much better of the exchange. To end the fight, Overeem faked a right cross to go into a shifting uppercut again. After it landed, he grabbed Badr for a left knee to the head. The knee landed flush, and as Badr's head came up, Overeem threw a Superman left hook once again to land a beautiful knockdown. But when Badr got up, Overeem hunted the finish. He dodged a bunch of Badr's punches and landed a perfect counter hook to finish the fight. To celebrate, Overeem jumped on the ropes and did a roar. And the ring girl tried to chase him down to give him the trophy, but for some reason, he didn't want it. In the post-fight speech, Overeem knew it was a huge win for the MMA fighters.
For all MMA fighters, and for everybody who think respect is important.
After Overeem went back to the dressing room, he jumped on the giant semi-shield like a little boy. Alistair Overeem vs Ewerton Teixeira. This is by far the scariest knockout from Overeem. It's perhaps the scariest knee knockout of all time. Ewerton was a monster Kyokushin fighter, one of the best non-Japanese karatekas ever. After moving to Japan to train full-time, he was on a fast rise in kickboxing and looked like he was destined for great things. That was until he met Ubereem. It didn't matter Ewerton had a 9-1 kickboxing record defeating legends on his rise, Overeem was determined to destroy this monster. When the fight was about to start, Overeem stood in the corner looking like a glorious superhero.
That is not human, that physique.
During the stare down, it looked like an apex predator was ready to hunt its prey. When the fight started, Ewerton was using the lead hand to try to control the distance, but this made Overeem switch to southpaw right away. When Overeem went in for a right hook, he got blasted away with a nice high kick. But when they clinched up, it was clear the karateka was a fish out of water. When they separated, Overeem went to the orthodox, but Ewerton was much more comfortable there.
My God, he looks like he's getting bigger and bigger with every show.
You can show a movie on his chest.
So he switched to southpaw again to close the distance. As he pressured Ewerton, he threw a crushing rear left knee when Ewerton threw a cross. That already rocked his poor opponent, and he finished the combination with a double collar into a huge knee to the head. Making a huge statement, Overeem knocked out his A-class opponent in the most dominant fashion possible. Right after this fight, he pointed at Badr and said he's coming for him once again.
Walked up over to the ringside and pointed at Badr's manager and said, "I'm coming to see you guys."
This was perhaps the most devastating knockout in his entire career, sending his opponent to the Shadow Realm. Overeem may not punch as hard as Mike Tyson, but despite all the great knockouts by Kid Dynamite, he has never laid out anyone as dramatically as this before. Alistair Overeem vs Ben Edwards. Ben Edwards was a 3-sport prospect in kickboxing, MMA and boxing. Edwards had 2 world titles in kickboxing already by the time he met Overeem, but it didn't matter. Overeem, on the other hand, was right in his prime in 2010. Edwards came out swinging for the fences right away, not intimidated by Overeem's superior muscles at the similar weight. It was an 8-hit combination that Overeem defended well. As Overeem continued to press forward, Edwards continued to chuck technical combinations that were defended by the Reem. When Edwards started to jab, Overeem would time the overhand over Edwards' jab perfectly. This would be very important later. Pressuring forward and forcing the opponent to throw, Overeem stayed in his shield and picked off the shots. When Edwards decided to jab again, Overeem again timed the overhand counter and it landed perfectly. He walked away like a boss, not even a bit surprised at what he just did. Edwards got back up and started swinging for the fences again, but with the huge arms of Overeem and the big gloves, no shots could penetrate. Overeem simply walked Edwards to the corner once again and landed the perfect overhand over the jab once again.
Oh, again!
Beautiful, man.
I told you he could take a beating! I told you he could take a beating!
To finish the fight, Overeem threw 2 hooking bombs at Edwards' guard, showcasing how much power he has.
How do you get up? It's over! It's good night, Irene!
After the bout, Overeem was a sweetheart dedicating the fight to a fallen friend who was the Chief of Navy SEALs. Adam Brown was a fearless hero with an upcoming movie dedicated to him. Alistair Overeem versus Dzevad Poturak. At the press conference for this fight, Overeem said Poturak is a snack. Although Poturak was a police officer and the best fighter from Bosnia, Overeem was not intimidated at all. I mean, just look at his back muscles, truly Herculean. During the stare down, you could already tell what was going to happen. In the beginning of the fights, Poturak was moving well on the outside and landing nice punches. He even stumbled Overeem with a nice 1-2 into shifting rear cross. But Overeem isn't just a jack fighter, he's always had high fight IQ. To deter his opponent's nice movement, the Reem started chopping the legs. Then he landed a nice shifting left cross of his own. When they clinched up, Overeem framed on Poturak's head and landed a perfect short right hook to drop him for the first time. After the reset, a nice uppercut and sweep was scored, followed by a perfect left hook to the right knee combination twice. When the ref warned them for holding, he smacked the ref's hand out of the way and continued. To finish the fight, Overeem lunged into a left hook, speared the ribs with a left knee, and then slept the opponent with a right knee to the head. Alistair Overeem versus Tyrone Spong. Entering the 2010 Grand Prix became very meaningful to Overeem, because to hold simultaneous belts in MMA and K1 means you're the strongest in the world.
You are the strongest in K1 and you're the strongest in MMA. So you hold 2 championship titles, 2 belts, and you're the strongest.
For the first match of the night, he would face Tyrone Spong, King of the Ring. Overeem and Spong used to be teammates but eventually went separate ways later. Spong would dominate from 75 kilograms all the way up to 105 kilograms to meet Overeem. There was only a 5 kilograms of weight difference here in this fight, but it looked more like 25 kilograms instead. In the stare down, Overeem looked like he was ready to eat his opponent. Right from the beginning of the fight, Overeem went for a Superman punch followed by a knee to the head. He charged at Spong looking as scary as ever. For most of the round, Overeem was dominating the exchanges. However, Spong was able to land 5 left hooks in a row in a 14-hit combination as he rocked Overeem.
Overeem rock solid! That Virgin's defense, nothing penetrates!
But Overeem was game as he kept a high guard. Spong had good momentum and was able to affect Overeem to the body with punches, so Overeem started adjusting strategies. Overeem moved forward with a tight guard without punching and waited for Spong to punch first. Then he would time these to Spong's head and body. In the second round, Overeem continued wading into the short range and forced Spong to trade with him. In most of these exchanges, Overeem was winning, showing that he is not only a jack fighter, but an extremely technical striker with his boxing. Overeem rocked Spong with a left hook, 2 right hook, and then began a 6-hit combination.
We've seen it, he wants to step in, I've seen him twice.
Right hand left hook from the Reem!
The fight was at a draw with 1 round going to each fighter. To rock Spong, Overeem entered the clinch with a left knee to the thigh, which got Spong to dip his head lower, and when he did, Overeem sent a right knee to Spong's head. Overeem then cornered the hurt Spong to land 23 unanswered strikes in a row.
Spong's got to get off the ropes here! He's got to get off the ropes! Alistair's going to tee off on him like a golf course! Spong's got to get back to centre ring! This is Alistair's territory!
The referee put a count on Spong, and Spong, being super savvy, spat out his mouthguard when they were about to engage to buy more time. This allowed Spong to survive the round, but Overeem was also not hunting for a finish because he knew there were 2 more fights against legends. Although Overeem didn't knock Spong out here, he got really close to doing so. Alistair Overeem vs Gokhan Saki. In the next fight, Overeem faced off against Gokhan Saki, the Turkish Mike Tyson of kickboxing.
Kebabs versus horse meat.
These two were both teammates at Golden Glory, but there was no mercy shown in this fight. From the very start, Overeem puts on the pressure right away and tries to land a big combination on the ropes. However, Saki fights back and then lands a beautiful spinning kick which sends Overeem to the floor. It was not ruled a knockdown, but Saki continued the momentum to land a spree of left hooks. He was sticking and moving and landing left hooks beautifully, fighting a perfect fight. It was a masterclass of varying left hooks to the body and the head, as well as how to layer it with jabs and lead uppercuts. But one left kick from Overeem discovered something very important, that Saki was hurt on his right side. As Overeem stalked Saki, Saki tried to land another spinning kick which off-balanced Overeem. But when Overeem threw another left kick, it hit Saki right on the injury he accumulated from the previous fight. While Saki put on a tremendous effort just fighting off of one arm, he ultimately could not continue.
You don't have to have your hand raised to be a champion. This man showed a lot of heart, showed a lot of technique. Props to him. Unbelievable.
Alistair Overeem versus Peter Aerts 2.
The final is set. The Reem versus Mr. K1.
Hide your kids, hide your wife. Super made to the finals.
In the Grand Prix finals, the Reem would face off against Mr. K1 again.
Alistair has just looked unstoppable so far. You know, props to Overeem. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's second year in K1 and he's in the World GP finals.
Hey, compared to this tops everything.
Can you believe this? Arguably the hottest fighter on the planet, Alistair Overeem, taking on the biggest legend in K1 history.
From the very start of the fight, the Reem rushed Aerts and gave him trouble. A beautiful charging left hook, right uppercut and right hook already rocks the great K1 champion.
It's the most aggressive start we've seen from Alistair so far.
Aerts tries to fight back, but Overeem lands a perfect overhand over Aerts' jab, sending him into the corner. This is where Overeem is the strongest, and he spears Aerts' ribs with a walk-in left knee. Sensing that Aerts is hurt, Overeem charges in with a left hook to the body, and then releasing a relentless 10-hit combination, sending Aerts to the ground. Overeem starts celebrating right away, knowing his legendary opponent won't be able to get up.
Unbelievable. And here is Alistair Overeem, an MMA fighter, has become a K1 World Grand Prix champion.
He's the top combat athlete has out of this year.
Unbelievable.
You cannot deny the awesomeness of Alistair Overeem. Victory that will be talked about for a long time to come. Becoming the first man ever in history.
This whole tournament, man, has me speechless. The super, and you know how it goes down, man. He just came out on top.
Of course, the Demolition Man has been destroyed in kickboxing too. Ubereem's most prolific loss was against Badr. Alistair Overeem versus Badr 2. This wasn't a knockout by Overeem, but it is his most epic loss in kickboxing after becoming Ubereem. Originally, Badr agreed that if Overeem fought in kickboxing, their second fight would be MMA. However, that promise was not fulfilled.
As you may or may not know, my friend Badr already declined the MMA fight with me, so I'm just waiting for any of the other fighters to step up. MMA fight, you're always welcome.
Instead, their second fight would take place in the prestigious K1 World Grand Prix tournament. When chirped by Overeem, Badr got up and made a very bold claim.
If he gets through the first fight against Teixeira, then I promise that he won't make it 2 until 3 minutes in the kickboxing ring with me this time.
After Badr made this claim, Overeem didn't look impressed. Ruslan, who was Badr's rival and first opponent in the tournament, didn't look impressed either. But both of them didn't know what was coming. You see, during this 1 year period, Badr had begun strength training. He started to lift weights and no longer looked like a skinny, lanky fighter. Now he had muscles that he didn't have throughout his career before fighting Overeem. When the epic rematch between Overeem and Badr finally began, they started with the most epic stare down. It's clear that this fight is personal, and both of them are determined to show the world that they're superior to their opponent. When they started the fight, Badr hunted a big combination right away. He got tossed to the ground immediately when he went for a knee. Despite getting ragdolled, Badr kept his cool and remained composed. When Overeem rushed in to deliver the same combination that knocked out Badr in their previous match, the shifting uppercut into knee, Badr stepped back and delivered a perfect short right hook. Badr knew Overeem felt that, so he started to charge in with big punching combinations. In every exchange, it was Overeem who gets forced to shell up and clinch. Even though Overeem could still shove Badr to the ground, no longer was Badr the skinny lanky fighter that Overeem could overpower with his strikes. When Badr threw an overhand, Overeem tried to counter with a left hook, but Badr's punch landed flush. Overeem was rocked, and before he went down, Badr framed on Overeem and landed another short right hook. When Overeem fell, it was like watching a skyscraper crumble. He sat up and looked composed, but when the fight started again, Badr hunted the finish immediately. Badr unleashed a 16-hit combination until he got thrown to the ground after a high kick. When they reset, he unleashed another 10-hit combination. At the end of the combination, Badr threw a high kick that slipped through Overeem's guard, and that sent him stumbling into the corner. The referee saw enough and ended the fight with no protest. Badr may not be everyone's favourite fighter, but this was a beautiful comeback no matter how you look at it. From a humiliating defeat to beating Overeem within 3 minutes by knockout, Badr knew that once he said it, he had to back it up. And that's exactly what he did. He said it, and he did it. This win was even more epic when we consider the fact that Overeem won the entire 2010 K1 World Grand Prix tournament the next year. Overeem's legacy will always be remembered by fight fans as the only person who captured a world title in MMA while becoming the K1 World Champion. This was Alistair Overeem's top 7 legendary knockouts in kickboxing. What do you think of the monstrous kickboxing and MMA legend? Please let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.
You look at a picture like this.